I don't answer my door at night. It's just a personal rule. I don't live in the best part of town, and I've heard too many stories. Break-ins, home invasions, people getting tricked by some sob story only to end up with a knife in their gut. So when I heard the knock at 11:47 p.m., I froze. 3 knocks. Steady. Not frantic, not impatient. Just deliberate. I sat on my couch, my TV humming with the blue glow of a late-night rerun. My apartment was quiet except for the low murmur of voices on the screen and the occasional groan of the wind outside. Maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe it was some drunk at the wrong door. I stayed still. Then, another 3 knocks. I swallowed, my throat dry. Something about the sound of it. It wasn't just knocking. It felt off, like the person on the other side already knew I was there, like they were waiting for me to react. I stood up, my bare feet whispering across the hardwood. The peephole was just a couple of feet away. I don't know why I hesitated. It was just a door, just a peephole. But my gut twisted as I reached out. Slowly, I leaned in and pressed my eye against the glass, and my stomach turned to ice. Standing there on the other side of my door was me. My own face staring back at me. Same unshaven jaw, same tired eyes, same grey hoodie, same posture. I jerked back so hard I almost fell. The knock came again. 3 times. I pressed my back against the wall, my heart hammering so hard I could hear the blood in my ears. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. I don't know how long I stood there, breathing like a cornered animal. But eventually I had to look again. I leaned in, slower this time, and glanced through the peephole. Still me, still staring. And then he smiled. A slow, creeping grin that stretched too wide, like the skin around my mouth was being pulled by invisible hooks. I clapped a hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Then the thing outside whispered, "I know you're in there." My stomach lurched. The voice was mine, but wrong. Too flat, too hollow. I backed away, heart hammering, reaching for my phone. I dialed 911 with shaking fingers and pressed the phone to my ear. A soft click. Then my own voice came through the speaker. "You shouldn't have done that." I threw the phone away like it had burned me. It skittered across the floor, the call still open. The thing outside knocked one last time. 3 slow taps. Then silence. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't move until the first hints of sunlight crept through the blinds. And when I finally gathered the courage to check the peephole again, the hallway was empty. But taped to my door, right where my twin had been standing, was a note. 3 words. CUSOON. I didn't touch the note. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid it would still be worn from whatever was standing there last night. Maybe I thought touching it would make it more real. So I just stared at it. "See you soon." The words were scrawled in black ink, my own handwriting. I ripped it down and crumpled it in my fist, my breath coming in short, panicked bursts. I told myself it was a prank. Had to be. Someone messing with me. Someone who knew what I looked like, who somehow got my handwriting. But the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. That thing, it had my face. The day passed in a blur of paranoia. I kept checking the peephole, kept looking at my phone even though I knew there wouldn't be any missed calls. When night fell, I made sure every lock was bolted, every curtain drawn. I told myself nothing was going to happen. And then, at exactly 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. I snatched it up, my heart pounding. Unknown number. My throat tightened. I hesitated, then swiped to answer. Silence. "Hello." My voice barely came out. A pause. Then, "I see you." I nearly dropped the phone. It was my voice. Exactly. But it didn't sound like it was coming from a phone call. It sounded like it was right outside. I spun toward the door. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. In the mirror, I turned, my breath catching. My reflection stood there, still as stone, staring back at me. But it wasn't right. The me in the mirror wasn't standing like I was. My hands were clenched into fists, my head tilted at an unnatural angle. Then, he blinked, and I didn't. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. My reflection stayed perfectly still, watching. Then his lips curled into that same too-wide smile. I scrambled for something, anything, I could use as a weapon. My hand found a heavy book, and before I could think, I hurled it at the mirror. Glass shattered, spraying across the floor. But the second the mirror broke, the lights flickered, and for the briefest moment I saw him. Not just in the mirror, standing behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing there. Just my empty apartment, the sound of my own ragged breathing. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I just waited. And as the first light of dawn crept through my window, I realized something that sent ice through my veins. I had broken the mirror. But in every shard of glass scattered across the floor, he was still there, watching and smiling. I didn't move. I barely breathed. All around me, in the broken shards of mirror glass, he stared back. I shifted my foot slightly. My reflection didn't. I blinked. He didn't. He just watched. A slow, sinking realization crawled up my spine. That thing, the one knocking at my door, the one whispering through my phone, the one standing in the mirror, it wasn't just some hallucination or sleep-deprived trick of the mind. It was real, and somehow it was me. I forced myself to look away from the shards, from his still smiling face, and backed toward the bathroom. I needed water. I needed a second to think. The second I stepped inside, I caught movement in the bathroom mirror. Not just movement, him. He was closer now. I spun, my breath hitched in my throat, but the bathroom was empty. Still in the mirror, he stood there watching, smiling. I moved my hand. He didn't. Instead, he did something that made my blood turn to ice. He raised his hand, slowly, deliberately, then pressed a single finger to his lips. A silent, mocking sh. Then the lights cut out. I staggered back, my pulse slamming against my ribs. The darkness was thick, suffocating. I fumbled blindly for the door, my fingers scraping against cold porcelain, metal, tile, until finally I found the handle and wrenched it open. Light. The hallway was still normal, my apartment still standing. But I wasn't alone anymore. I heard something behind me. Not footsteps, breathing. I turned my head, barely able to force myself to look. And there, standing in the bathroom mirror, on my side of the glass, was him. Not a reflection. Not behind the glass. He was in the room. I ran. I don't even remember grabbing my keys. 1 second I was in my apartment, the next I was bursting through the door, flying down the stairs in nothing but sweatpants and a hoodie. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I didn't care that it was the middle of the night. I just needed to get the hell away from there. The stranger. I didn't stop running until I reached a gas station 2 blocks away. The cashier, a tired-looking guy in his 20s, gave me a weird look when I stumbled inside, out of breath, wide-eyed. "You good, man?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. My mind was still racing, my chest heaving. I grabbed a water bottle from the fridge just to have something to hold onto and made my way to the counter. I opened my mouth, maybe to ask him to call the cops, maybe to beg for help. when the gas station's security monitor caught my eye. There I was, on the screen, standing outside. Only, I wasn't outside. I was inside. My stomach flipped. The cashier followed my gaze, frowning. "That your twin or something?" I couldn't speak. Because on the screen, the other me turned his head, as if he could hear us talking. Then he grinned, and raised his hand, and waved. I staggered back. What the hell? The cashier blinked at me, then at the monitor. Then the color drained from his face. "Jude," he said, his voice shaky. He's not on the cameras anymore." I whipped my head toward the screen. He was gone. Then, knock, 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 right outside the gas station door. Slow, deliberate. I didn't want to look. But I did, and there he was, waiting, smiling. And this time he wasn't alone. The knock echoed through the gas station like a gunshot. 3 times, steady, deliberate. My hands clenched the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. Outside, my other self stood just beyond the glass doors. The flickering neon lights overhead cast eerie shadows across his face. His grin was wider now, stretched beyond what should have been possible. But that wasn't the worst part. He wasn't alone. Standing beside him, just barely visible under the gas station's flickering lights, was someone else. A 4th person. I couldn't see their face. They stood just out of reach of the light, their form shadowy, almost wrong. Their head was tilted at an unnatural angle, their arms too long, fingers twitching at their sides. Something inside me whispered that I did not want to see them up close. The cashier, who had been dead silent until now, took a step back. "Jude," he whispered, "what the hell is that?" I couldn't answer, because the thing outside took a step forward. The 4th one. Even though the glass door separated us, I felt it. A wave of nausea, like the air itself, was warping around them. My vision blurred at the edges, my ears ringing. The lights in the gas station flickered. The power surged. The TV behind the counter switched on, blasting static. The security feed flashed between different angles of the parking lot, the aisles, then, for 1 second, it showed something else. My apartment, the inside of it, empty, except for the broken mirror shards, except for the smiling faces staring up from them. I grabbed the cashier's arm, my voice a harsh whisper. "We can't stay here." He was already pale, his breathing shallow. "They're not." He swallowed. "They're not human, are they?" I shook my head. Outside, my other self raised his hand and pointed at the door. The lock clicked open. The door creaked. I didn't think. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a metal flashlight from the impulse buy rack, and bolted toward the back exit. The cashier was right behind me. I threw my shoulder against the door, expecting it to be locked, but it swung open. The alley outside was empty. We ran. We didn't stop. The streetlights buzzed overhead, casting long, distorted shadows as we sprinted. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel them behind us. They were coming. The end of the chase. I don't remember how far we ran. By the time we stopped, my lungs felt like they were on fire. We ended up in some empty lot behind an abandoned building, streetlights flickering in the distance. The cashier collapsed against a wall, gasping. "Golly, we lost them." I didn't answer. Something wasn't right. The world felt thinner, like the space around us wasn't fully real. I turned slowly, and my stomach dropped. The alley behind us was gone, replaced by something else, a reflection. The world around us wasn't the real one anymore. It was a mirror, and stepping out of the darkness, wearing my exact clothes, my exact face, was me. No, not me. Him. My twisted reflection. The cashier stiffened beside me. Jude. But he didn't get to finish. Because behind my other self, from the darkness, the fourth one emerged. And this time I saw its face. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some demon. It was me. But different. Twisted. Rotting. A version of me that should not exist. And as its lips curled into a grin, as the walls around us rippled and warped like a broken funhouse mirror, I finally understood. There was never just one of them. There were four. And now, I was one of them too.